Get ready for another episode of Limitless Journeys, the African Immigrant Podcast.
We as an organization, at the end of it all, how we can support you. So here's the problem, this is the process, and this is how you can get help through us. That's one aspect of it. So not even just necessarily talking about the farm, is the awareness of mental health issues that exist in our community. They're being present to one another in different aspects. And one aspect can be done through farming. One aspect can be done through building youth cohorts. Another way of doing it is just awareness, talking to each other, doing check-ins with each other. So that people or whoever is listening does not just think that we're just talking about a farm and going to grow trees and that kind of stuff, but we're really talking about the health and wellness. That's our bottom. That's the underlying thing for us as an organization, is the health and wellness of you, of me as a person, as a human person first, and then also as you and me as an immigrant, somebody who's living in a new community. And how can we help you? How can we support each other to thrive and succeed in this place we have chosen to be our new home? So that's just my thinking. Probably I could hear from the rest.
Well, let me stop you for a second, because that was great. And I just wanted to backtrack a little bit to give an example. You mentioned youth cohorts, for instance. Could you maybe go into a little bit more detail about what that would look like, or what that involves?
I think it involves something like, and the young people here can talk to that more, not just youth cohorts, even older people cohorts, but just building opportunities for people to share. People who have a common ancestry, people who have a common family background, people who speak a common language, that we are able to create that space, that safe space, which somebody can be able to come and share about their challenges, talk about what they're going through, or even opportunities, and the vision of America, how America can really support you and help you achieve your greatest height. Share about what are your plans for the future. What are the things that inspire you? How can we develop opportunities together? So it's people who have a common background, I would think, and are willing to share their ideas, irrespective of their age. We can have one group of young people. We can put the time, we say between the ages of 18 and 25 or 18 and 35, because they are young adults, they can vote. So how do we encourage each other, support each other, become each other's keeper? That's just a few of the thoughts that I have.
That's wonderful. And I loved what you said about the ages too, because I think sometimes in this country in particular, I mean, that's all I really know about, is sometimes people can limit themselves or limit other people respective of the person's age. So it's like I used to run a program that would recruit volunteers. This was in Hawaii, recruit volunteers who were over 50 to give back to the community and be mentors and do all these kinds of things. And then I would hear people like, over 50, you should be thinking about retirement and, playing golf and, I don't know, playing bingo at the senior citizen home or something. It's almost like at 50, you just kind of run out of gas or something. And some of the most passionate and active people are in their 80s. I mean, I see some of these actors, for instance, and I'm thinking, how old is Patrick Stewart? And he's still doing, he's still the lead in a Star Trek series in his early 80s, because he has that passion. And he has more energy. Some people in their 80s have more energy than people in their 50s. I wanted to hear from Mara. Mara, what are some of your thoughts about how you see Wakulima supporting the community and, just give me the goods on what's going on from your perspective.
So, my vision, the vision keeps changing. In terms of the youth and the young adults, I think of it like what we share in common. For example, like for Wakulima should be able to bring people who share the same common goal. This does not limit us to farming. It should not limit just to the work that Wakulima is doing. personally, for me, it's about the growth. What is the cultural background we're trying to get together? Do we have other people who are my age who want to do podcasts? Do we have other people who want to do cultural stuff? So it's just not very limiting, like, oh, it's about, it's about the farming, it's about the mental health. But what does the mental health mean? Is it dancing? Is it Afro dancing? Is it yoga? Is it, going to the farm? So different aspects of that that's why my vision keeps changing with Wakulima. In terms of the age, I do think there's something called ageism that's going on, and some people think they are older, they you cannot relate. Also, there's that cultural difference. There's different types of thinking, totally different types of thoughts, totally different life experiences. But what the organization should do and what we're supposed to be supporting is, what do we share in common? Is it a common meal? Is it us going storytelling? We just sit down and just have stories. Like, it's stressful living in America. It's so stressful, and there's a lot of things that are going on. There's a lot of like single moms, there's a lot of single dads, there's a lot of people who are newly married, there's people who are trying to get kids, like there's all these kind of different aspects. But then how can we all bring them into one bracket and have us together support each other?
Mm-hmm.
That's what
Well,
I think.
yeah, I mean, you brought up some really good points. I mean, just talking about the stress, and you mentioned a couple of things that contribute, I think, to stress and anxiety and depression and substance abuse. I mean, I even think about when I look at the news, and I see things like the other day I saw a road rage incident where somebody got out of their car and took out a gun and was shooting at the other motorist. And I'm like thinking, okay, somebody cuts you off in traffic. I'm not saying that's not a little, irritating, but to completely ruin your life by getting so angry that you're going to attack someone, you're going to go to jail, you're going to go to prison, and pretty much your life will never be the same because somebody cut you off in traffic. And I bring that up because I think sometimes I feel like our society is like a simmering pot, like when you put a pot on the stove and you turn it up and then the lid starts to kind of rattle, and then finally, if you turn it up, boom, you've got a fire, you've got water all over the place or whatever. That's what I feel like some people are operating in that realm. So whatever can be an outlet to alleviate some of that stress, whether it be learning dance, doing a podcast, sharing your life experience. And I'd say sharing your life experience can be particularly important because I think people keep things bottled up for various reasons. They think nobody's interested, or they're going to be embarrassed or shamed or what. And so they keep everything in, right?
Yeah, and that is causing all these health problems, like it's just because people are so used to bundling things up. There's a lot of jealousy, there's a lot of like crazy stuff going on in the world where people don't want to put it on the table. And I feel like we're not in that space. We should be in the realm where you're able to express yourself, you're able to deal with issues as they come, because we're supposed to recreate the energy. The easier you release the anger, the more you get the joy, the more you experience good things, happiness. But because we are so bundled up, and I think it's also because of the country itself, probably, I don't know, or the stresses of life, or just the issues, like everything is just so expensive. So we're not able to recreate that life and that energy and giving it to the universe. But we need these spaces, because if we're healers, we also need to be healed. Well, that's just my 2 cents.
Oh, well, no, that's more than 2 cents worth. That's about at least $5 worth. What do you think about what Mara's just said, David?
Kevin, I don't think you're aware that just a couple of weeks ago, we did have a young person in his 30s, a family man, commit suicide. He has 3 kids. One is 8 years old, the other one is 5, the other one is 1 month old. We do not know. I haven't personally, I don't know what happened, but I just know he was in one of our church groups, Catholic men, and we learned about that sadly, I think on the 28th, around towards the near close to the new year. Why I'm saying that is because this could be something that was bundled up, could be a lot of pressure that he was going through, could be, there's a lot of could be, could be, could be. And yet the conversations that we are having, we are trying to facilitate would be opportunities for people, irrespective of age, irrespective of background, irrespective of history, would be able to come and talk and share and find resources. That's what we're doing at Wakulima. We're trying to offer those opportunities. If you need therapy, how can we connect you to a therapist who can speak even Swahili, for example, or a language you understand? If you don't have money, we do have folk organizations that we know that can support, that can pay for between 6 and 8 sessions for somebody to go to therapy and get help. Or we can get, it would be great if we could form a group of, let's say, priests, pastors, community leaders, trusted people in the community to become a place where somebody can share their challenges without any judgment. I think there's something that's going on. My wife was telling the TikTok or Facebook that says, I'm telling you, without judgment, something like that. You can say whatever you want at this point, but there'll be no judgment.
We listen, but we don't judge.
We listen, but we don't judge.
Yeah,
we listen, but we don't judge. Where people you can listen and, I'll say, Kevin, I think I don't like your hat, for example. I don't know. I know you don't have one. And then it'll be like, David, I don't like your beard. Those things, but you don't judge. When you say this happened, you listen, but we don't judge. So creating those kind of opportunities and forums is what I would see us doing more this year. And opportunities for engagement. This is just one. There's another lady who also died. I think it was a car accident. And what I'm learning is that she was going from a shift to. What I learned was that she had moved from another state to this is speculation. I'm just saying what somebody told me.
Right.
Moved from another state to this state because somebody was going to marry her. I think it went sour, it didn't work, and then she started doing a lot of jobs, and probably she was going to work, and she was working and working and working and doing all these shifts, but not sleeping. She probably, what I'm hearing is that she got into an accident and she died. She was only 30. She was born 19. She was like 34, something like that. Yeah, very young. So, or 30 years old. So there is a lot in our community, not just in our Kenyan community, but also in our immigrant community and in the larger community, of things that people are facing, but we do not talk about. How do we create that opportunity to talk about these things and save space and trust and hope? Because the people come to America with a lot of false hope that once you get to America, all your problems are solved. You are there. Everything you find. I think I had seen a few weeks ago, a picture of a guy who had all dressed in dollars, and somebody said there's a lot of expectation that you're a money bank. You just you breathe, money comes out of your nose. That kind of stuff. But that puts a lot of pressure, especially on people who are coming here, younger people. First of all, the journey of getting a visa is hard for those who are coming on visas. Even getting a green card is hard.
Yeah.
And once you get here with all the expectations, I know people have been returned at the airport and they thought that once they had secured the visa. So there is a lot of untold stories. And as Maura says, let's have a forum where we can just come and talk. Let's tell our story. Because right now I am reading a book called Halftime, and it's by Bob Buford. And the book talks about moving your life from success to significance. They say halftime, they used to think halftime is at 50, but it's not, because people are dying younger. The average age of American life is, they say, 74 for men. So if you're 74 and half of that would be what? 38?
37.
37?
Yeah.
So that's your halftime. And yet we are not seeing that. We are living like people who think we live to be 1,000 years old, like Methuselah. So it's just that conversation that we need to enhance and continue encouraging. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned a couple of key words. Safe spaces, I think, is one for me, as well as a word that also I tend to use is normalize things. So that when you have conversations, I think one of the reasons why people feel vulnerable or feel safe enough to bring something up and express what's on their heart is that they're in a safe space, but that the conversation is a normal thing. It's not like, oh my goodness, we have to have this separate, we have to have this special meeting next week to talk about this one thing. Well, why not talk about it right now? You know, why do we confine talking about Black history just in February? You know, I mean, our society is kind of built on, I think, this kind of protocol about when you can talk about things, when you can't, what's acceptable, what isn't. Um, and again, you
And
know,
I
like you,
think, Kevin, just to not to cut you off, and I
sure.
also think just to add on that, sometimes the talking you can find other different venues of release. For
Mm,
example, dancing, yoga, like exercising, being, it's just not, you don't have to talk all the time because sometimes you probably feel, oh, they don't trust me, they don't believe in
mm,
me. And there is that fear
mm.
because trust is a big thing for a lot of people. I gotta trust you to tell you something because you probably will take my stuff and then go tell somebody else, and I'm not safe. But
Yeah.
then, if I have a venue where I feel like, you know what, I'm stressed, this is happening, let me go dancing, let me put some
Mm,
music on, let me go to yoga, so I think there's all these different avenues where we can do the outlet, even without just having the talking part of it.
hmm. Well, that's a very good point. Having options, I believe, and having the outlet. So we have Vanessa Wakulima, USA. That's a great name. So we want to get your input on all of this, Vanessa. Are you ready?
This is great conversation. Very, very important topics everyone has brought up, especially when we talk about transitioning to America. I think for me, so I think of Wakulima as a big platform. For me personally, it's a platform to really elaborate and really get in touch with our community members as to all of these issues we're speaking of. Um, to piggyback off of Mara, like when it comes to mental health, there's very many ways to release and to talk about and to bring about and to start the conversation. It's not just always about seeing a therapist, which is good. You need to talk to somebody at the end of the day, absolutely. But there is many other outlets that you can use to definitely speak about what you're going through, dealing with. And I think that stigma within our community is it's not noticed enough and it's not recognized enough. Yes, people have started the mental health conversation, especially after COVID, but nobody's really intervening. Nobody's really talking about it and doing something about it. They making plans maybe, but are they really being executed? So I think when it comes to our platform here at Wakulima, it's a great way to really intervene and like David said, to really allow people to show them the resource or to allow us to show them the resources that we have and what we can provide for them and how to get in touch with us and not being, we listen, we don't judge. So you feel comfortable, you feel safe, and making sure that it's an open space, open forum. And then also that generational gap that's within our community as well. I think we forget that people our especially our youth versus our parents and their parents, it's all different experiences across the whole spectrum. So if you come here as a 10-year-old girl, as a teenager, as a 21-year-old, it's going to be a completely different experience. But I think what we forget is the values that we share. It's all the same. Being Kenyans, the values, the traditions, everything that we have learned back home, everything that how we grew up, how our parents and our elders grew up, it's all the same. But when we come to America, we lose sight of that. We lose what we were taught. We lose sometimes even our faith because
Mm,
we are so caught
mm,
up in trying to conform to the
mm,
American society. And then that's when people start to lose sight of things and they'd start to think that I have to now learn how to be American and live the American lifestyle versus being a Kenyan in America,
Mhm.
taking advantage of the American resources, but still keeping the same values and traditions that I have learned and grew up with. Um, so I think there's that. I think that's the major thing for me is, I guess, forgetting your identity. And once the identity is lost, you can literally, there's a saying called lost in the sauce. And the sauce is all the mess that's going on around. So I think once a person identifies who they are within themselves and who they want to be, now they're in this new world, pretty much because it's a whole new world once you land here. I think it will be easier to navigate how you can comprehend everything that's going around you.
Mhm.
So especially when you raise kids here, it's hard because these kids now they think they're in America, they can fend for themselves, they don't have to listen to their parents, they don't have to think they have to be disciplined because they see how American kids are disciplined, which they don't have any, if we're being honest. So they think they can act all kinds of ways and grow up to be something that their parents didn't even imagine, getting into situations with the law, substance abuse, like you guys spoke about, which is huge in our community. Alcoholism is huge in our community. Actually, I call it an epidemic. Literally, alcoholism in the Kenyan community is an epidemic and it's a serious issue. I think we forgot how to socially drink versus drinking to do everything. And it's bad. It's really bad all across the board. Um, and I think also, speaking about like, I heard Maura say like single parenting or getting married, things like that also have huge effects because it goes back to the values. Like, what values do you share? What do you uphold? Do you have to follow this divorce rate that's going on in the US? Because back in the day, even I feel like until now, divorce is like pretty much a taboo back home. What's a divorce? You hear our elders, they've been married for years and years and years, and I'm sure it's like that too in other cultures. But once you come to America, it's like, wow, everything has to change. Did you even do the work to stay with your family? Did you figure out why are you giving up so easily? Stuff like that, those kind of conversations, I think they're not really dissected enough. So it's a lot. It's a lot going on. Can we fix it all at once? No, absolutely not. Can one person fix it? No. I think it's just starting that conversation here, using our platform like this and spreading the word, spreading the message. And not even if 50 people don't listen, one person will, and they'll talk about it to somebody else. And that's just how it starts and keeps going.
Yeah, I believe it's planting seeds. And I think
Mhm.
you're right, is that you have to start the conversation and people need to
Mhm.
be educated. I mean, a lot of what you just said, a lot of what everybody said, there's so many people that are unaware of that. I mean, even when
Mhm.
these conversations that I have when I interview people, I learned something that I didn't know, and I
Mhm.
think that ignorance is the downfall of a lot of individuals and a lot of communities, because if you don't know, like substance abuse, if you're working with people and you have no background or no knowledge, or you think, oh, everything's fine, and if you just assimilate to the American way, you'll be fine. And I think that there's a real pushback right now against like things like DEI and about learning about history and things like that. There's a real effort to make people conform into one kind of big blob of
Mhm.
whatever it means to be an American, which means leave your identity at the door. Don't wear your
Yeah.
hair a certain way. Don't outwardly reflect, either verbally or what you wear, your
Mhm.
identity, which is your race and your culture and your lived experience. Because, oh, that makes me feel uncomfortable. We just want everybody to be colorblind and be the same. And so it to me, it's kind of like in therapy, so if I come into David, he's my therapist, and I'm telling him about all these problems, and he just says, well, don't just forget about all that.
Mhm.
Just be happy, go to work,
Input.
and pay your bills. You know, you
Yes.
say, well, wait a minute. I'm not getting fed here. I'm not being recognized. I'm not being honored for who I am. And my racial and cultural identity is a big part of who that is. And for those people who say, "Oh, be colorblind," I said, well, that's easy when you aren't being targeted merely because of your skin color. You know, which is,
Yeah.
let's face it, you know, you could walk out the door right now and somebody could call you a name, or someone could discriminate against you or treat you a certain way based on the fact
That's
that you're,
xenophobia.
yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
where is Wakulima physically located for our audience here? Where's the farm at?
So right now in the process
And
of purchasing a new farm.
Okay, in a
So
certain
we,
area.
we hope that this year it's going to bring that into fruition.
Okay,
Very soon this month, we're going to be going to see one that we've already identified. It's going to be somewhere in King County
okay,
that we
okay,
will know, but we will release the information once we get there. But
okay,
currently, our office is in Kent. One office is in Kent and one is in Tacoma. So we do have two spaces where people can reach out to us. Uh, but before we say more on that location, I want to touch something that I think is very important, which Vanessa mentioned, is the cultural aspect of immigration. That when you go to a new space, like the United States of America, you come in, let's say, as a Kenyan, Ugandan, Tanzanian, you're who you are. Culture is who you are, the element that makes you who you are, what you eat, how you speak, how you dress, versus the American, what is the American culture? So there is, in my opinion, there is no specific thing that is American culture, but a mixture of all these different cultures. And the good thing with this country is that it can allow you to be you in your own culture. And that's why one project we are hopefully going to work on this year is bringing that cultural identity into fruition. Let's have conversations about you as you, not you as a wannabe American. You're already an American because you're, let's say, a citizen over here. You don't need to change to be another person or to change to talk in a certain way. You don't need to change your name. You can be you and still be American. So when we talk about the cultural elements that she talked about, matters of faith, when people come, they have all these, sometimes it is a faith that was taught to us by the missionaries, which was also colonial in the mind, in some areas. But also the same thing happens here. For example, Catholic Church in Kenya versus Catholic Church here. This one's embrace this one don't embrace this, or Pentecostal church, or so there's a difference. Then people start asking, hey, what is it about? I was told to do this and this and this, but this is not happening here. We are talking about elements of divorce. Divorce existed in our communities. It's only that people didn't talk about it back in Africa. We are talking about abuse. We're talking about alcoholism. It's huge in Africa. It's huge. It's part of the culture, especially in countries like Kenya, what has one of the most, I don't even know what to say, the most alcoholics in this world, that the people drink.
Number one.
So we move that culture here. So we come here, we think, oh, we can continue doing the same thing we used to do. Guess what? You drink and drive, you got caught, you get a DUI, all these things now start putting more pressures. And yet we still want to maintain some of those things that we came up. So it's important for us to come to the space or to the conversations where we can say, hey, the laws in Kenya are not the same as the laws in the United States of America in relation to family, in relation, even children, for example, raising children. It's a totally different dynamic, but we have seen a lot of American, I don't want to call them American, but let's call Western influences now in most of the African kids being raised in Kenya today. Like last year with them, some of these kids are like, whoa, give me a break. They are probably even worse in their way they behave than the kids that we would literally, raise here. So culture is dynamic. I know that we are moving, the world is moving. There's so many changes. What are some of those changes that we need to embrace? What do we need to pull out from? What do we need to remember health and wellness and to thrive in these areas? What are the things that make me feel good? What, not drugs, some people say drugs make them feel good, but what is it in those drugs that make them feel good? And is that the kind of high that you're looking for? Or is it something that is within those acceptable limits? Because there's a lot that these conversations can lead to. So it's a long, long conversation that really needs a lot of opportunities and spaces where we can be able to just tell the story. And that's the goal. We are hoping that hopefully this year we'll have that opportunity to have a forum where people just come and sing and dance and tell the story. And hopefully when we get our own space, they'll learn that this will be part of the Wakulima farm. These activities will be taking place there, where we will be able to have people come and just have fun or just connect with nature. Just relax, just be quiet, have a picnic, learn how to cook, grow your food, so that it's a place of healing and a place of joy.
Yeah, absolutely. And stay authentic to who you are. And I think this is a good place to end this particular episode, because I try to keep it to, a certain amount of time, because this is an ongoing, continuous conversation anyway. But I think that what we've done is we've kind of set the stage and we've set the foundation. You've explained what the foundation is. And so important, you've expressed why there needs to be this and why people need to hold on to their identities and be who they are. I mean, I use the word I use the term be your authentic self a lot, because there's so much pressure for people to reshape their lens and act a certain way and don't wear their hair. I mean, I've had people tell me, especially doing DEI training, I've heard people tell me, they were in the workplace and they were told not to wear their hair a certain way. Or I was talking to a Native American mom who her son had to go into a rehab center, and in their culture, in this particular tribe and culture, the hair is sacred. I mean, it's very important. They have very long hair, and they immediately cut the guy's hair, and because they wanted everybody to conform to this like military crew cut type of thing. Well, whose value is that? Where did that start? That didn't come out of Native American culture. It came out of another culture way back hundreds of years ago that everybody is still trying to assimilate people into. Like, be more like us and you'll be successful is kind of the feeling. Vanessa, could you just tell us where you're from originally and because you came over here at a certain age?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm from Kenya. Born and raised, well, half and half. Born in Nairobi, raised in Nairobi, and also Mombasa, which is the coastal side of Kenya. And I came here when I was 9 years old.
Okay.
Yes.
I want to make sure that was included. So then if Mara and David, if you could just kind of say the same things, I always want, and I'll probably put that at the beginning of the podcast, actually, it kind of introducing you and where you're from. So go ahead, Mara.
So I was told I was born in Thika. I was told, I'm not sure, but I was born in Thika. Then I have lived half my adult life now in America and the other half in Africa, in Kenya. What else? What am I supposed to
No,
say?
that was it. I just wanted
Yeah,
to,
yeah,
where you're from, because that's
yeah.
a key ingredient here.
Mm-hmm.
And David.
Yeah, I was born all over the world. Good luck. I was born in a place called Bondeni Maternity in a small town called Nakuru in Kenya, in the Rift Valley province. I was raised there for most of my young life, most important base life. And then I moved in several spaces in Kenya, worked as a teacher in central Kenya, and then came to America about 25 years ago. So I have been around for 25 years. I came here when I was 29.
Mm-hmm.
So if I want you to do some mental math to calculate my age. So I've been here long enough. Actually, most of my adult life I've been here. So, yeah.
Okay, great. Well, my last thought was just around where we were talking about this whole thing of like what it means to be an American, and a lot of times the word melting pot has been used. America's a melting pot. And immediately I start thinking about a cake, because some people say, well, you want to be an American. I said, if you bake a cake, there's all these, it's a recipe. You have all these different ingredients, right? But when it all comes down to it, it's all one cake.
One cake.
But if you look at the list, there's sugar, there's flour, there's this, that, and the other. Well, so to me, the flour and the sugar, these are our individual identities that all come together. So to be American, to me, you can be both. You can be Kenyan, you can be Native American, you can be Hispanic, whatever, and you're still an American. It's not this separate thing of like, oh, well, that's, we have Americans and then we have those people over there.
I just want to add, for me personally, I think what you said is really true, and I live by that, and I've seen it works. Being your authentic self is the best thing you can do for yourself. When you're by yourself and the things that please you, the things that you go, maybe you read a book, maybe you go dancing, being your authentic self takes you to higher places, take you to another realm where you're like, wow, these are the things that fulfill me. And that brings to your fulfillment. And also with that, I now personally believe that creates my culture. That is now who I'm creating. I'm creating a culture of my own. And that is what I believe culture is, because you could have your own culture and we don't agree on some things, or I was raised probably in this way, blah, blah, blah. And that culture does not settle in with me. For example, the things that used to happen back in the day. If I go to my village right now, there's so many things that they do that I'm like, whoa, 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 hold up, where did that come from? And so because we have differences, that does not make us like rivals or anything. It just means you believe in that culture. I believe in this culture that I'm creating for myself. And this is what it relates to me more. And I'm just being authentic with myself. So I feel like it has a great impact, and it makes somebody live to their fulfillment. You feel accomplished. You feel like you're living life. You're just not surviving. Like we're just here to survive, babe. No, you are living a fulfilled life, because when the doors are closed, if you take a book and read, that's you being your authentic self. If you listen to music, if you feel like dancing, that's you. That's being you. And then that will take you to whatever you want to be.
I think Mara likes dancing. She's mentioned dancing
I know
like
you keep
50
mentioning
times.
I am
dancing.
actually looking for dancing classes. Yeah.
Yes,
I
I
want
want
to
to
do
see.
dancing classes. I
I want
was
to see the
looking for
Mara
some
dance
dancing
video.
class.
I want to see
Yeah,
the
I'm
Mara
looking for
dance
some.
show.
If you know some studios, yeah,
All right, well,
I
that's
am.
another conversation. Anything you want to
Yeah.
add, Vanessa or David, before we stop?
All right, Vanessa.
I think I would definitely just love to make an impact some way, somehow. Just to know that I did something, not only talked about it, but I acted on it. It's big for me. I'm huge about my passion is to help people. I've always been like that. I've always said I want to save all the sick and hungry kids all over the world, but if I can just make an impact one small way or another, it's huge for me. So um, definitely, I think creating your own traditions is important and not conforming to what society wants you to be like. Definitely being your authentic self is 100% true. And if we can only try to do that within our community, I think our suicidal rates will decrease because they're super high right now, and it's very sad, but I think there's something that can be done about it. And it just takes for us to sit down at a table and talk and see what we can do and do it.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
for me, what I would add is that thanks, Vanessa. Is two things. One, Socrates says, knowing that thyself is the beginning of wisdom, and that takes a lot of meditation and reflection of who you really are, and your aspirations, and why you are on this planet. The other thing that I always I did a lot of studies for world religions, and one quote that I really like is in the Bible that says, "I have come that you may have life, and life abundantly." So I always challenge people to reflect on what is abundance to you, because when you're able to define what abundance means in your life, then you attract those things that are abundant to you. So, but some people have elected to have abundance of problems, abundance of money, abundance of love, so what is your abundance? And that talks to the choices that you make, the people you interact with, the people you allow into your life, but also knowing that it is well. This too shall pass during hard times. It is well. And that if our life is meant to be joyful, let's focus on the joyful, because that's what I believe is meant, that the happy moments are the moments that you want to remember always. What makes you, thrive? What gives you your greatest pleasure or greatest joy? What kind of interactions, who are you inviting to your life? Again, what is abundant life to you?
You have just listened to another episode of Limitless Journeys, the African Immigrant Podcast.